Welcome everyone to our inspiring IAPC&M Authors series, which you can also find on our blog and which complements our book review club, which has been a great success. Now, if you are a practitioner wanting, dreaming, struggling probably to add a book to your business strategy, you are in the perfect place. Guests will be sharing not only their writing and publishing story, but also what that book or books have done for upscaling their business. My name is Judy Kennedy. I am your IAPC&M host. And today I am absolutely delighted to welcome, let me call him sales guru, Matt Elwell, director of the Elite Closing Academy, sales trainer and coach, and public speaker, who is actually on a mission to change the way the world sells. I want to hear a lot about that, helping business owners get quick wins, gain more clients, and grow their business. I do always like asking our guests for lesser known facts. And I like the idea that, he sounds super savvy technically and all of that, but he actually says that apart from using his computer phone, as in his mobile phone, he's incapable of using any other kind of technology. And I thought sounded so lovely. He's a keen hedgehog conservationist. Now, I love that. I'd like to hear more about that. But today we are here to discuss your book. The title of the book is Open with a Close, which I must say myself, I found pretty clever. And I guess the title is extremely important when you're trying to push a book. So thank you for being here and for sharing with us, this book. Why, first of all, why a book?
Well, great question, and thank you for the introduction and, really excited to share. By the way, if I could change one thing about my book, I'd actually change the name from Open with a Close to Stop Selling and Start Serving.
Well, that's also good. Stop selling and start serving. That is good, but somehow the open and the close I thought was particularly clever. Huh?
Yeah, thank you. Well, my philosophy is very much in sales as it is in life and business, really, is to be totally transparent and to start with a joint vision at the end of an interaction with both people, a result at the end, and then work backwards. So that's why I called it Open with a Close. Start with the end, work backwards.
Exactly. But so you're all about sales, right? I mean, I can feel you breathe sales basically, but in a lovely way, as in not in a pushy way. But I mean, why a book? Why did you feel a need to write a book?
Great question. Two things. Firstly, I had, like many people at the age of 39, I had quite a big moment in my life. And that moment in my life was that somebody that I loved and cared about dearly, my uncle, Peter, sadly passed from a brain cancer that happened quite quickly. And he was in his early 60s, an amazing human being. He fought apartheid in South Africa. He was a dentist in the UK, and he was a very spiritual man as well, a preacher. And he had this, just as he retired and was going to enjoy a lovely life, he had this terrible brain cancer, and sadly passed very, very quickly from it. And I was approaching the 40-year mark, enough to be on the planet and alive for 40 years. And I think many people that have reached a milestone will know that I was just going through the whole, what's the purpose of my life? What do I want to achieve? And if I died tomorrow, I know this sounds a bit morbid, but the question I kept asking myself was like, if I went tomorrow, and let's face it, none of us are getting out alive, so we're all going to go. I was like, I kept having this recurring sort of negative vision, if you like. It was not a good vision to have, which was people at my funeral standing around my grave, and by the way, I'm not even going to get buried, I'm going the other way, but this was the vision, saying, here lies Matt Elwell. It didn't add up to very much.
Oh, right.
At the time in my life, on the outside looking in, I got a really good family business. I got a nice home, all the material things, but inside, somewhere inside, I just wasn't really that happy. And I think I've been putting it off to one side for many years, really. And I'd started to tolerate procrastination and tolerate the fear of sharing and just start to really get quite frustrated. And my uncle's passing really inspired me, actually. And the inspiration that he left, and it was a gift really, was when he was actually in hospital. I went to see him one day, and it was towards the end, and he was like full of joy, and he was full of, hope and hopefulness and happiness and gratitude. And he got a strong faith. And I said to him, Uncle Pete, you're making this experience unbelievably good for us. How do you do it? And he said, human beings need hope to cope.
Right.
Hang on a minute. I've got to write that down. We'll just say it. I said, what do you mean by that? And he said, look, I believe that the surgeon, even though this is an incurable cancer, is going to wake up tomorrow morning and I'll be the first one that he saves. And I just remember thinking, like, that is so powerful. And then I started thinking, what have I got inside me that could help other people with some hopefulness? And the answer was that I needed to leave my business. I needed to change my career. And I needed to start to coach and teach and share my version of sales, which, as you already pointed out, and we don't know each other, is conversational, is not persuasive, not pushy. And I learned that in a family business. So I couldn't write. I'm not, when it comes to being educated, I'm not at the top of the list. I've got a degree in the University of Life, that's for sure.
Right.
But not academically, no writer or whatever. But I've just started to make some notes of like some scribbles, really. And then I started a coaching business. And in that coaching business, I started to teach coaches, experts, therapists, trainers, consultants, my philosophy, my style of coaching, sales and doing sales. And then it became apparent that I've got some methods and some frameworks easily transferable. And I was like, do you know what? I am going to put this information in a book in order and sequence. And I wrote this book. I keep this with me all the time. It's on Audible. People around I've sold this in 19 countries around the world.
Goodness.
2.5 years. But I wrote it as like, I didn't write it to sell anything.
Yes.
I didn't write it to upsell anything. I wrote it to share what I knew.
To serve, right? Basically, hence what you said about the title, right? You want to help others. And if you made money and if it sold, great.
You know something? Yesterday, I had my 7th royalty check come through. And I just want to make this clear. Like, I will not be getting on a business class flight to Bermuda on the strength. Just so everybody knows. It's not a grand, it's not a massive amount of money. And I didn't write it for royalties. I wrote it to share. The thing that gives me the most joy is I get messages from human beings around the world who have got one thing in common. They want to serve others.
Right.
I've just read page 37 and I've taken 10. On page 37 of this book, by the way, has got questions that you should ask when you're selling. Not coaching questions, not like not serving questions, sales questions, like understanding what people need from you. And they'll literally go, I've just made a sale by asking questions that I've never thought of before. So that's why I wrote the book, to share initially.
Yeah, I mean, your motivation is so strong. And we'll get into the nitty gritty to how did you overcome, we were offline already talking about why I haven't got a book out yet, as in all whether it's the technical side, the money side, the self-belief side, there's already so much out there side. I mean, all these excuses that we use. But I very much like what I'm hearing here. So basically a strong life event with somebody you cared for a lot woke you up to, what is really important. And that came, coupled with the idea that on the outside, you had everything, but there was still a lot of frustration, dissatisfaction, and fulfillment on the inside. And that basically by taking all of this great knowledge and expertise that you have and turning it around as serving others, that you managed to also do that wonderful thing, which is like crystallizing everything in a book. I think personally, then, I would say that I have so much knowledge on so many different aspects, I always feel a little bit scattered. And I have the feeling that there must be a wonderful feeling to basically force yourself also to condense what you know. Maybe it's many books, but in separate structures in order to serve others, as you said. So, okay, we've certainly covered your motivation, and that totally resonates with me. But how did you take it one step further? Because I heard you say, well, I'm not a writer. I was just, scribbling down notes. Lots of us are okay at that bit. I mean, I have books and books full of notes. I probably have at least 25 books, more or less, ready, or which wouldn't take that much to get ready. How did you take it that step further? How did you actually get it into a book format? And that's before we're talking about the design, the publishing. How did you make it a book?
Good question. So two things. Firstly, I picked a subject, and I specifically wrote this book to help people exchange contracts, make sales, get the money in, because once I started coaching, I realised that was actually quite a big problem. So
yes,
I'm not in a position to advise anybody on strategy around books. I just share mine. I was like, well, if I go all in on one specific subject, excuse me, which was, in my case, the close, the end of the sale. The sale's over. Everything's shared. All you got to do is actually exchange contracts effortlessly with some grace, no conflict. Like, you're helping someone out, they want to buy. Like, how do we get that bit right? So I was really specific on what I wanted to write about. That was the first thing. Because like I've got psychology, I've got language, I've got communication, I've got all these different things that I'm interested in, I study and I teach. So I got specific on that. And then I'm just going to say this out loud. And this can sound, I don't mean it to sound wrong, but I started to have a look at how other people had presented their books.
Yeah.
And I found that there was basically two types. There was the self-published, and I've never thought about this at all, a self-published book where somebody's put it together themselves. Like, by the way, if you've done that, if I had a hat, I would take it off and start sending you congratulations.
Yeah.
It's so hard to do. And then there was another side of it, which was actually like a published book.
Yeah.
And I invested, I can't remember exactly how much, but it wasn't sort of like tens and tens of thousands, but it wasn't low thousands either. Can't remember exactly. But I wanted my first and possibly only ever book to be something that when I touch it and feel it, I go, that is a proper book. Now, and I'm not, again, I know that sounds like really obtuse. I don't mean to be obtuse to anybody that hasn't done that. And I was in the fortunate position in the company that I was at the start, that I'd got the cash to do that. So the best thing I ever did was to go to a publisher called Rethink Press, Joe Gregory, a lovely human being and a great team. I said, I can't write for toffee. I don't know where to start, but I do have lots of information and notes and order and sequence. And I actually invited him to come to one of my trainings. I do live trainings in right by Birmingham International Airport. People fly in from all over the world to my trainings now, which is really great. And Joe came and he's a doodler, calls himself a doodler. So he sat there over my training. It's like 2 or 3 days. It's 3 days now, I think 2 then. And he's just like scribbling and doing drawings. And then I presented him a summary of what I'd written about. And he was like, look, we offer a service to actually bring this into a book. And to be able to hand it over to the author, honestly, even if I hadn't got the money at the time, knowing what I know now, I'd have borrowed it, I'd have earned it, I'd have gone to the bank and loaned it, I'd have found a way. And lastly on this, people carry this as a tool, and I just wanted it to feel like a proper book.
I hear you. Yeah. I hear you, and I think it's investing in yourself, right? Isn't it? I mean, I would say certainly I'm not a specialist, as I say, I haven't written a book at all, but I mean, I would say to me, it sounds, also judging by the many authors I've now interviewed for the IAPC&M, it's, don't make your life more difficult than it needs to be, in particular for the first. If you've done it a few times or you've seen how it's done, I think self-publishing is, of course, a very attractive route because it is a lot less, it costs a lot less, but however, that is often that first threshold, which just means that it doesn't happen. So if you really do want it to happen, to actually invest in someone who will help you, as well, you did the whole thing, as in it will help you with the writing and the structuring, or ghostwriting. That exists as well nowadays. I actually ghostwrite for people, not my own books, but
my second book, I've completed it, and it was ghostwritten by Rethink, which was a tremendous experience. But I just want to say two things on that to inspire anybody that's listening. Because you used a great word, which is investment.
Right.
And I'm happy to share these figures, by the way, because in the end, once I had the asset, the intellectual property completed, my business partner and I were like, well, how do we build our business around this information? And, you know, in 2020, we did £747,000 of sales from this book in 1 year.
Right. And
I just want to make it clear, at the time, you know, I started this business, this coaching business, from my kitchen table 5 years ago. With literally, I didn't have a book, I didn't have anything, I didn't have any clients. I just had an idea, and I just started teaching and coaching, consulting sales, and then developing my content and my structures of how I'd sort of, you know, teach it. And then what the book did, and this is why, this is the second aspect of the investment with Rethink Press, or any good publisher out there, is they were able to, like, they put it in order and sequence, but the things I learned from just listening to them, like, you know, writing a book, there's so much to it. It's like,
yes.
And having a specialist around, it opens so many opportunities, award ceremonies, contacts, connections, just the experience of investing that money and then getting an amazing financial return, which was amazing, like, unbelievable. But also the learnings, the teachings of actually, how do you bring information out of your body in order and sequence so that a reader can actually gain some benefit from it, and then go out and share it with others. And that was what I got back from the investment.
Right. And you sell it, or you give it out, or, I mean, it's like your business card?
Yeah, absolutely. So I use this at the front end of my sales funnel, and people can go onto my website, eliteclosingacademy.com, and they can download the book. They give me the details. They have to pay post and packaging.
Right.
And that includes, I've sold this in 19 countries around the world, to my knowledge, probably more now.
Well, if Holland isn't on it yet, I'm going to order one.
Holland's on, loads in Holland, right? Loads in Netherlands. But then what it is it's a qualification between somebody that doesn't know my philosophy on sales, and maybe somebody that cares about others, who's got a business, or they're a creative person, or somebody that likes to serve others, but sales is a bit of an Achilles heel, maybe, or it's not something they're great at, and they want to get better at it. Then it creates a bit of a qualification that they're at least sort of interested in my information. Now, the next thing that we do is then literally shower that human being with lots of love and touch points and human connection. My team will follow you up, make sure you've got the book, ask you how we can help. We've got free trainings, we've got paid training. Basically, the journey to consume the information and actually use it and ingrain it starts. Right. And we've put a lot of time and energy into that. But again, like when I started, I didn't have the system and the process I've got now.
It came along, yeah.
Just start with the book.
Yeah, I get you. And of course, it's lower threshold, isn't it? You know, people are maybe, you know, not sure that they're looking for training, not sure they're looking. So it's from what I've understood, it's an extremely good way to start. You've got the book, then you have maybe a free training, then you have maybe a, you know, medium price training, then you have the full Monty if you wanted.
Yeah, I'm a massive believer in sharing information. And in the sales world, in the old-fashioned sales world, there's this hold information back.
Yes.
Like, well, actually, we live in an age of communication and sharing information where we're consuming instantly. So the moment somebody shows interest, I send them the PDF version, I send them the Audible version. You can buy this on Spotify, you can buy it on Audible, you can buy it on all the major platforms, but I send them all versions of this book, including the hard copy, because some people read, some people don't, some people listen. I send them a video series, I send them scripts, I send them love, touch. But I'm looking to share my information and find people that are in line with my personal philosophy, then I know I can help them not just read it, but then take their business to the next level by saying, and
apply it, because a lot of us are good at actually doing the reading part, but not so good at actually putting into practice what we've read, right? Okay, right now, I mean, well, basically, I'm hearing you say that this book is very important for your business, and it took it to a different level, and there's the credibility and your legacy and condensing feeling about it as well. And so this company that you've invested in, they also look about the promoting and getting you on. You talked about awards, they get you on shows and stuff like that as well.
Connect you to a new community of professionals, coaches, authors, speakers, trainers, podcasters, humans that want to share powerful messages in line with their personal values, their company values, and it's just opened up new opportunities. It's just another form of experience and another form of opportunity. And I've just recommended Joe to you.
Yeah, exactly.
To other people, and that's, in my world, that is invaluable. If we can be a stakeholder for someone else that you know, like, and trust, then it if you can pass that love on to somebody else.
Yeah, and also, I mean, what I also like in what you're sharing now is that you're also saying you don't need to be a writer. You don't even need to be any good at writing. As long as you've got this idea, you've got this message, and you've got the content in whatever form that is in your head, get somebody else to do, to put it into order, to structure it, to make it sellable. Then there's the design of the book and the title and the cover and all of that. But basically, the content is yours. You have a dream, which is to share something in particular that you're good at, that works. And I think that's also important for the people listening to hear, because not everyone is a writer, but that shouldn't put them off having their book out there. Then get somebody, we always say, and that's what we also coach, isn't it? You don't have to do everything yourself. Get the experts that you need in order to help you, get it out there, actually make it happen. And I'm seeing you there holding your book and referring to it all the time. I think that is exactly what we're looking for.
I wrote this 4 years ago. I'm a salesperson. I've got 26 members of staff. 6 of them are responsible for sales. They've all got one. All of my staff have got one. All of the people that are in my academy have got one. And here's the reason why. I mean, I highlight things that I wrote 4 years ago as good practice, but to remind myself, because I'm a business owner, I'm a leader, I'm doing other things, I'm a trainer, I'm a speaker, all that stuff. But there are times where I have to have a powerful sales conversation. And I always like to make sure that if I want to serve the other person on the other end of the phone that's interested in working with me or my company, then the very least I can do is get my sales process organised, get myself focused, and show up in 10 out of 10 energy, which is what I keep my book for. I've got one in my car, I've got one at work.
Yeah. And I bet it does miracles for you as well. I mean, let alone the content, being able to refer to it for yourself, for your own clarity of thought as well. It's also reminding you of what you can achieve, right? It's also reminding you that Matthew Elwell got this book out there, whereas it wasn't something that you thought you would do or could do, etc. And I think from that point of view as well, it also reminds us of who we are and what we're doing. And since the majority of people listening here, of course, at IAPC&M are coaches, we have our up days and our bad days, and sometimes we need that extra, remember what you did for me, testimonial from someone, etc., to put us totally back on track.
I had massive imposter syndrome, massive hindering thought. I do, even to this day, every day I have all those thoughts with this book. And look, I'm just going to be honest for those thinking about this. We could fluff it up and pretend it's all amazing and easy, or we could go, actually, look, writing a book has pros and cons. So, like, some of the great things are everything you just said. Like, I see people that I've known for years in a pub, and they go, I just read your book. It was awesome. Well done, I was in Las Vegas at a show 2 years ago, and there was somebody around the pool reading my book.
Oh, my.
And somebody text me from that same pool going, hey, somebody's reading your book. One of my clients. So look, that stuff sounds great and whatever. All of that stuff's great. Some of the downsides are when you put your information out there in the 21st century, there's sort of an unwritten rule with Twitter, with LinkedIn, with WhatsApps, with Facebook, that people just say whatever the hell they want to say. Now, by the way, we are governed by laws. In the UK, we're governed by laws. I'm sure we are around the world. We're governed by laws. But people don't seem to realise that you can't just say what you want, but they do. So
Right.
obvious bit was getting some trolls, and particularly I didn't find it hard personally because it was quite it was mainly an attack on like my weight and how I looked. It wasn't talking about it was my physical situation, not what was in the book.
Yeah.
And my mum and dad and my wife, and I've got 2 young girls, they found that hard initially.
Oh.
And particularly my eldest daughter, some of her friends at school, I've got a YouTube channel, just some of the comments. And I'm not saying this to put anybody off. I'm saying this because this stuff does happen.
It is the reality. Yeah.
And again, some of the reviews, like most of the reviews, when somebody reads a book that's been written with good intention and from a place of love, which certainly was mine, and I'm sure would be anybody in this community. Anybody that actually reads it, generally, you look at the reviews of this book and they're always positive when somebody genuine reads it. And by the way, from time to time, there's somebody who reads it and gives a really good review and says it wasn't great. And that's great. That's fine. Like, I'm totally cool with that. But it's when it's abuse, when it's sort of clearly coming from a place of envy or jealousy. And what I've learned to do is just switch it off. Right. So there is a bit of that. There is also a word called scrutiny. And this is one of the things that holds so many of us back. But I see this as an opportunity to actually make sure that what you're teaching is really good. And I say this from a really peaceful place. I do see in the last 2 or 3 years, coaching businesses set up in somebody's bedroom where they're pivoting to online. And I look at some of the content, I go, yeah, that's not really good enough, to be honest. And I'll give you an example. Somebody teaching how to be, a 10 grand a month coach, and they're making 1,500 quid a month themselves.
Yes. So
it will get found out if you're a phony when you put it out there. So look, I don't say that to discourage.
No, I get you.
I say it from a place of respectfulness to say, look, if you're going to put it out there, you've got to be able to back it up with beliefs. You've got to be able to back it up with information. You've got to be able to back it up with your own science. You've got to back it up with you've got to be able to back it up, because I get invited on podcasts. I was on the second biggest podcast in the UK just a few weeks ago. And you will get tested on your content. You will get questions. And if you fluff it, or if you, I don't want to swear, but if you blag it, if you wing it, if you're making it up on the hoof, this is not an accusation. I'm just saying, when I get interviewed or asked questions, I'm going, these are great questions, and it's my information. I haven't borrowed it, I've nicked it, so I'm not guessing. And I do see that as one of the reasons why some people might hold back. And I just encourage people to make sure that when you do write it, if you're not sure, double check it, circle back around. As
you said, it's an investment, right? And especially if you're going to go and actually financially invest as well, as in, even if you self-publish it, there's some, investment in it. Just make sure that it's proper. It is your business card, right? And it does represent you. I often say that to my clients that I help with editing. We do judge a book by its cover, I'm afraid. We do. What makes us pick up one and not the other one? If I read, I work mostly with non-native English speakers. If I read 3 mistakes in the first sentence, I'm gone. It's not professional. I'm not interested. I'm not even going to read further. So, it is about making it right. And we owe it to ourselves, right? If we have this idea and there's something that we want to be of service to, do it properly. So thank you very, very much for that. I think this was a very honest, very inspiring discussion as well, because it's clear what this book has done for you and for your business and to serving the world. And as you say, it's work in process. One last thought: are you doing anything different for your second book?
Yeah, well, I had it rather than write it all myself this time. I invested in a ghostwriter to interview me.
Perfect.
Their own words, which was a completely different experience. And I haven't published the book yet. It's finished. It's been finished actually since June last year.
Okay.
I've been focused on still promoting this book, which actually last year slowed down a little bit because there was a little bit of fatigue to promote it. So we're actually repositioning the way we talk about the book as we speak. But Yeah, book number 2, I think I can say with confidence and certainty, will be published in 2023.
Right.
Yeah, I want to get it out there.
Exciting. Well, I look forward to having you back and discussing that one as well. For now, I would just want to say a huge thank you, Matthew, for your time and for sharing in such an open and honest way how you got to getting this book out and why we should all really make that effort, invest in whatever help we need in order to get our book out there, because we deserve to be heard if we have a message to share for servicing others.
I think I just want to add one other thing. I think, look, you know, if you're sat at home listening to this and you're going like, oh, it's fine now, he's got a book, he's got a team, all I'd say is just start small and aim big, and, you know, get some of your information out there, share it with the world, let people consume it, you know, surrender to the fact that you're going to get some idiots, but focus on the people that pick it up and read it. And I'll just share this one thing before we go. I had, in the first couple of weeks after first getting this book out, I was really nervous about it, felt really like, who am I to write a book? And I thought about some of the gurus, like, if they read this, they're just going to trash it. They're going to, this is just rubbish. It's just hindering thoughts. I was making stuff up in my head that hadn't even happened.
Like we all do.
And I got a Facebook Messenger from a life coach in Australia, and I remember it. I can't remember like the exact words, but I remember what she said, and it was something along the lines of, she said, I have been trapped for years in giving so much information that people haven't ended up actually buying any of my coaching, and I haven't got any money left. And she said, and I saw your book for free and thought it was too good to be true, but decided to invest a little bit of money in post and packaging, right? And we got it all the way to, and she said, I read it and I asked some of the questions in the book and I got my first paying client.
See.
And I remember thinking, do you know what? That is why I wrote it.
Exactly.
And all I'd invite anybody to do is, I didn't write this book to build a business and make it part of the sales process. I wrote it to help people, and if that's you, just write something, just help people and see what happens next.
Right. Well, I can't say it better than that. Thank you, Matt, and to the rest of us. It's time we actually go out there and make it happen. So good luck to all of you. Bye for today.